Gildan Media, a division of Recorded Books, presents Family Incorporated, Using Business Principles to Maximize Your Family's Wealth by Douglas P. Mccormick, narrated by Walter Dixon. Publisher's note: this audiobook has bonus material. Please contact whomever you purchased this audiobook from to request the material. All figures and tables referenced in this audiobook can be found in the bonus material. Forward. I've watched Doug McCormick employ the lessons and teachings of Family Incorporated for over 25 years. We became good friends as cadets at the United States Military Academy, where we endured the Academy experience, the rigors of school, military training, and the challenges of collegiate athletics. Doug as an accomplished wrestler and captain of the team, and me battling on the gridiron for the football team. During that time, he established himself as a leader, an intense competitor, and a gifted, creative intellect known for independent thinking. These attributes have propelled Doug to success through every stage of life: highest-ranking cadet and first captain of the Corps, accomplished Army officer, distinguished student at Harvard Business School, and successful banker, investor, and entrepreneur as co-founder of HCI Equity Partners. The breadth of his experience allows him to bring a unique perspective to the topic of personal finance. As an unemployed husband and father putting himself through Harvard Business School, Doug learned the challenges of acquiring wealth when you have none. Harvard exposed him to the best teachers and thinkers in finance. At Morgan Stanley, he developed an understanding of capital raising, mergers and acquisitions, and how Wall Street works and thinks. As a private equity investor and co-founder of his own firm, Doug understands business, entrepreneurship, and the tools corporate America uses to create enduring value. Few professionals have enjoyed such consistent success combined with such breadth of experience. His diverse life experience, educational accomplishments, and business experience make him uniquely qualified to advise us all on the pursuit of financial independence. Family Incorporated is a career roadmap and investment guide for everyone, regardless of life stage, educational level, or profession. It offers valuable tools that would have helped me navigate my own career and financial progression as a student, Army officer, banker at Goldman Sachs, and CFO of the NFL and Twitter. In many cases, I was following Doug's recommendations intuitively, but without understanding how they fit into the Family Incorporated paradigm. My experiences are not unique. This book's teachings are relevant to many people I have worked with throughout my career. For the soldier transitioning to civilian life, the banker with significant financial knowledge, the professional athlete who acquires wealth early in life, the millennials in Silicon Valley pursuing entrepreneurship, and my college-age daughter. Quite simply, Family Incorporated is required reading in the Noto family. If you're going to listen to one personal finance book, this should be it. In a field where so much has been studied, written, and re-studied, it is hard to believe that it is possible to offer new, fresh, and compelling advice. However, this is exactly what Doug accomplishes. Most financial planning advice emanates from the Wall Street-centric perspective of professional investors and advisors, financial institutions, and organizations attempting to address your financial needs through products. Doug's approach is rooted in the insight that, with the exception of the size of the numbers, corporate and family financial statements and the principles required to effectively manage them are essentially the same. He borrows best practices of corporate America and modifies them to fit your personal financial situation. This approach results in better decision-making, which will lead to better outcomes and lower risk, and, I dare say, the purchase of fewer financial products. Throughout the book, you will be exposed to numerous novel ways to think about the financial game of life Doug refers to as Family Incorporated. Examples of these conclusions include: for most of us, our labor represents our most significant asset. Family Incorporated provides advice on how to most efficiently harvest this asset through investment and career choices. When is the last time you discussed your labor capital with your financial advisor? Any accurate measure of wealth or asset collection must include your expected labor and Social Security values. This changes everything and is unheard of on Wall Street. Most investment programs are designed to minimize price volatility over relatively short planning horizons. Family Incorporated recommends a portfolio that maximizes long-term, real, after-tax purchasing power in spite of shorter-term volatility. This results in significantly higher equity exposure than traditional advice has. Buy a home, enjoy it, and use it to create wonderful memories, but don't justify the purchase as a good investment. Labor and capital are commodities. Through entrepreneurship, you can help shelter these assets from competition. Mastering the lessons in the book can also help you maximize the impact of your charitable giving. Every family needs someone, the family CFO, to ensure the members adequately manage their risks while effectively allocating both labor and financial capital to achieve financial independence. Family Incorporated was written as a user's guide for the individual. I am confident listening to it will improve your financial well-being. But I would be remiss if I did not mention Doug's motive for writing the book and the public policy implications of this kind of fresh thinking in America today. Our economy and society are changing in ways that are making financial literacy more important than ever before. Yet, the disparities between those who have mastered these skills and those who have not continue to increase. While our political parties become more extreme in their approaches to address these symptoms, there is inadequate focus on educating Americans with the skills and tools to adapt to these changes and close this disparity. The kind of holistic, unbiased, actionable advice offered in this book must not only find its way into our formal education system, but also into the family dialogue. Regardless of your education, profession, wealth, or age, Family Incorporated is meant for you. Family Incorporated is a great personal finance book. More important, it is a guide to personal empowerment. Anthony Noto, CFO, Twitter Incorporated. With appreciation for America's Armed Forces service members. Most of us are aware of and can appreciate the sacrifices our country's service members have made to ensure our safety and freedom since 9/11/2001. They endure hardship and extended time away from loved ones, frequently putting themselves in harm's way for our collective benefit. However, there is much less appreciation of the financial sacrifices and hardships many service members endure long after their service. In many cases, they are required to move numerous times during their service, making it difficult for other family members to maximize their professional opportunities. Their active duty experiences are often underappreciated in other professional fields when service members attempt to transition from the military, and they experience higher rates of disability, divorce, and homelessness than the general population. All these factors threaten the financial security and welfare of our veterans. Financial literacy can't eliminate these challenges, but it can mitigate their impact. I hope this book can serve as a valuable tool for veteran service organizations that are helping veterans while promoting awareness of the unique financial challenges our service members face. If you have suggestions or ideas about how this book can assist veterans in your community or organization, contact Veteran Support at familyinc.com. Introduction. A quick internet stroll down the Amazon search aisle for personal finance and investment yields a long list of popular book titles. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, What the Rich Teach Their Kids About Money, Total Money Makeover, and Jim Cramer's Getting Back to Even, to name a few. While I have found some of these books enjoyable reading, most of the current universe of financial planning literature disappoints. Oversimplified how-to books of financial goal setting or technical works focused on a specific financial activity or asset class are not conducive to effective overall financial planning. The principles on which Family Incorporated has been developed are based on proven corporate finance concepts modified to address personal financial planning, and therefore are both timeless and time-tested. This book is written, I hope, with the intellectual rigor of a corporate finance class, but in the language of family discussion, with many examples from my own family. Family Incorporated is intended for people who have the potential to become high-income earners and want to develop a comprehensive, actionable, customized plan, one that acknowledges the relationships between job, net worth, age, consumption pattern, and long-term financial objectives. While it cannot guarantee financial security, it will give you the tools to develop a comprehensive financial plan and fully appreciate the implications of your decisions. As a professional investor, I've spent substantial time analyzing various businesses and evaluating the financial profile of good companies. I've become involved in all financial aspects of the businesses my company invests in: strategic planning, financial analysis, budgeting, capital structure, capital raising, acquisitions, and restructurings. During the past 15 years, I've served all these businesses as an active board member or chairman of the board, and in some cases, as chief financial officer. I realized along the way that many of the financial principles employed by successful companies are also relevant to personal financial planning and management. In this book, I share those principles and recommendations for creating your own financial prosperity and security. The lessons are particularly timely in the current economic climate. While it may be comforting in these uncertain times to rely on a financial expert to manage your financial interests, only you can adequately prepare your family for the financial opportunities and challenges that lie ahead. Many people allow their financial advisor to manage them. This book will teach you how to manage your advisor. He or she does, after all, work for you. One last point before we begin our journey. These principles and concepts of financial planning assume that you have the discipline and intellectual honesty to act rationally and stick to your financial plan. For example, many advisors suggest that you pay off the mortgage on your primary residence as quickly as possible. On the contrary, I recommend that you pay off real estate debt last, even after making other investments, given the relatively low after-tax cost of this debt. But this assumes that you actually save and reinvest this increased cash flow and don't blow it on a new flat screen or vacation. For these principles to work for you, you need to know yourself and your family members and customize these lessons appropriately for your personal situation. Now, let's begin the journey of developing your comprehensive roadmap to financial security and independence. Section 1. Every family needs a chief financial officer. Chapter 1. Why do I need a CFO? I don't even own a business. Growing up, my brother Dave and I developed different attitudes and behavior about money. Dave's nickname was Spensworth, given to him by our grandfather because, as Grandpa said, he spends what he is worth. Dave supported his carefree spending because he always seemed to have some sort of job. Making money wasn't the hard part for him. Holding on to it seemed to be. Like any good younger brother, I took the opposite tack. I, too, had many jobs: newspaper deliverer, farmhand, babysitter, Christmas tree trimmer, and stationery salesman, to name a few. But I saved almost everything I earned, made some investments with my father's help, and even loaned some of it out to poor Spensworth at usurious interest rates. While most of these youthful habits have stood me in good stead, they haven't exempted me from the sometimes scary financial decisions and challenges that come with becoming an adult. In my 20s, I resigned an Army commission to go to Harvard Business School, just as my wife, Michelle, became pregnant with our first child. While the opportunity to attend Harvard was exciting, it came at a high cost. Boston was much more expensive than we anticipated, and the job Michelle got at Harvard barely covered childcare and housing. Because I had some modest savings, I wasn't eligible for financial aid. For the next 2 years, we depleted my savings and borrowed heavily to pay for school, fund living expenses, and carry a monthly mortgage on our previous house, which we ultimately sold for a $50,000 loss. As my savings dwindled, so did much of my confidence, replaced by the humility and sense of helplessness that many families experience in the face of financial hardship. Even when I was a newly minted MBA, the financial losses continued. We had to borrow money from a family friend to move to New York, where we spent our first night sleeping on the floor, sweating with no air conditioning in the city's summer heat. Lying there, feeling more than a little defeated, I realized that, in spite of a lot of effort and hard work, bad financial decision-making had put us in this precarious situation. I was still managing our finances as I had as a young single man. It would take another decade of more learning and more mistakes to make sense of how my everyday life decisions fit together financially into the precepts for success on which this book is based. Many of us go to great pains to separate our work life from our family life and to leave business out of the family equation. But doing so diminishes our ability to make sound decisions about our financial future and the financial future of each of our family members. What I'll introduce in this chapter, and elaborate on in the chapters that follow, is how to apply the business principles of corporate finance to your own personal wealth management decisions. Asset and liability management, practical financial statements, control of risks, asset allocation, tax planning, all are tools in the world of corporate finance that help companies achieve their goals. And there's no reason these techniques can't be adopted for your personal use. Every business has a CFO, a chief financial officer, and every family needs one. Though few people think about it this way, everybody owns not just one, but two distinct businesses: a temporary labor business and an asset management business, which together comprise Family Incorporated. 1. Your temporary labor business. Each of us is born with a finite amount of labor potential to be harvested over a lifetime. Regardless of whether you are an employee in a large company, a soldier in the army, or a small business owner, in all cases you are in the same basic business, converting your labor into money. Like natural resources such as coal, natural gas, or gold, your labor potential is finite and is depleted over time. As part of a family, it's not just your own labor you need to consider, but that of your family members as well. The financial objective of your temporary labor business is to convert your labor into financial assets as efficiently as possible. In any job, your temporary labor business sells your skills and energy. 2. Your asset management business. The second business is an asset management business that manages the assets you have acquired through your temporary labor business or by other means, such as inheritance. These assets might include your home, your savings, your 401k, and more. Your objective in your asset management business is twofold. 1. Manage and enlarge your portfolio of assets. And 2. Produce adequate cash flow to support both your consumption needs, everything from groceries, clothes, and car expenses to recreation, and investments to further your labor business, such as my return to graduate school for further education that enhanced my earning power. These businesses are complementary and interdependent, and they must be managed in a coordinated manner. Your objectives as CFO in managing these two businesses can be simplified into 3 basic goals. 1. Provide adequate cash flow to support your spending, now and in the future, while allowing necessary investments to enhance those two businesses of yours, labor and asset management. 2. Maximize your Family Incorporated net worth, the sum of your labor and financial assets after taxes. 3. Manage your legacy by maximizing what you can leave to family members and their ability to manage these assets or to worthy causes. While this goal is worthwhile, it is a distant third in priority. You can't do number 3 without first accomplishing both 1 and 2. To illustrate the interaction between these businesses over time, let's take a simplified snapshot of one young man's current financial situation, encompassing all the assets he has to work with, which include estimates of future compensation for his work, future returns on his investments, and future Social Security payments, based on assumptions that are reasonable today. Throughout this book, we present examples like this one that illustrate key concepts by representing common circumstances. Tools to personalize the examples to fit you and your family can be found at familyinc.com. That's familyinc.com. These assumptions allow us to generate the holistic view in Figure 1.1 of the young man's projected Family Incorporated net worth over his lifetime, including the value in today's money, that is $2016, of the expected future assets generated by both of his businesses after all of his spending. For example, Figure 1.1 shows that at age 25, he estimates his expected lifetime labor value, compensation for his work shown in green, at about $2 million. For details on how to calculate expected lifetime labor value, see the appendix. By age 40, as the chart indicates, he will have received almost $500,000 of that value, so his remaining labor value has shrunk to $1.5 million. However, that $500,000 of used-up labor has funded his living expenses for the past 15 years, while also allowing him to accumulate over $75,000 in savings and other financial assets, shown in red. By age 40, he has also paid enough into Social Security to earn some $95,000 in expected future Social Security payments, shown in purple. By age 67, he will have retired, so he'll have no remaining earnings. He depleted the $1.5 million of potential earnings over the 27 years since he was 40. But his financial assets have increased to about $570,000, and his expected Social Security payments to more than $250,000. At 67, he will have to use these assets to support his spending for the rest of his life. As Figure 1.1 demonstrates, Family Incorporated net worth embodies three key components. 1. The value, in today's money, of expected after-tax labor income. 2. The value in today's money of after-tax future Social Security benefits. And 3. Net financial assets. Financial assets minus financial liabilities. In summary, the family converts labor into money and future Social Security payments during working years, so it can use these assets to fund consumption during retirement. This graphic is oversimplified, and the assumptions, based on today's realities, are certain to be off base because circumstances will change. Yet the concepts, insights, and planning tools that it facilitates remain powerful. First and foremost, this 25-year-old has an estimate of what his future financial life might look like if he doesn't go back to school. If, however, he were thinking of leaving his job to go to law school, he could modify these assumptions to reflect the impact of becoming a lawyer and compare the two scenarios. Figure 1.1 highlights several concepts that we will explore in greater depth throughout the book. Family Incorporated net worth is an expanded definition of net worth. All your financial assets minus all your liabilities that includes as assets the value of today's anticipated lifetime after-tax income and Social Security benefits. Including these as assets highlights several critical principles. For most people, future earnings from work are the largest asset, so the greatest net worth is achieved at a time when financial assets are minimal. This dramatizes the opportunity cost, the value you give up to get something else, of wasted labor, unemployment, or excess schooling, as well as the negative implications of failing to save or invest some of your wages. It shows that if our 25-year-old does pursue a law degree, to make this a good financial decision, he'd better earn enough more in his new job to compensate him for his school costs and his lost earnings while studying. In the later years of your Family Incorporated, success is driven by the power of increased earnings and compounding financial assets. Figure 1.1 shows it takes this man about 25 years to accumulate $180,000 of financial assets. But in the next 17 years, those assets more than triple to about $570,000. For your financial assets to benefit from this exponential growth, you must start the saving and compounding process early. Delaying savings until later in adulthood puts you at substantial disadvantage in the quest for financial security. Money management skills are a critical and often overlooked precondition for financial security. As Figure 1.1 suggests, savings and capital appreciation represent approximately 20% of the total assets available for consumption over a lifetime, including labor and Social Security benefits. Yet, most people spend significantly less time on managing this part of their business. Do you know anyone who spends 20% of his or her professional efforts on personal asset management activities? In the context of the Family Incorporated net worth framework, Social Security should be viewed as nothing more than the mandatory purchase of an inflation-indexed annuity that is guaranteed by the government, just another part of your financial asset portfolio. By itself, this asset will not provide financial security, and future changes in policy are likely to decrease these benefits. Regardless, for most people, Social Security benefits are an attractive asset and an important part of a financial planning program. While our labor assets are by definition finite, we all die sometime. Capital assets, investments, can grow without limit and, if managed correctly, can provide a perpetual annuity whose annual gains and income exceed consumption. This is the ultimate accomplishment in achieving financial security because it means you've practically eliminated the risk of outliving your assets. Assumptions and reality. Employing this family incorporated net worth framework allows an individual or family to identify the 10 key variables that ultimately influence their financial security. These variables include 1. Labor wage rates, salary and bonuses. 2. Labor duration. How long can you work? 3. Savings rates. How much of your after-tax income will you save? 4. Consumption profile. How much will you spend? 5. Reinvestment rates. What return can you expect on your money after fees and taxes? 6. Life expectancy. 7. Family inheritance. 8. Tax rates on income, capital gains, and estates. 9. Social Security eligibility and policy. 10. Inflation rates. While we'll explore the potential impact of all these variables in greater detail throughout this book, note that you can influence items 1 through 7. With the benefit of more information, they can be adjusted over time to help you achieve your financial goals. You have no influence over items 8 through 10, but they also have a significant impact on all business owners and must be considered in your financial planning. The same assumptions used to develop the Family Incorporated net worth forecasts in Figure 1.1 can also be translated into a Family Incorporated cash flow projection. A Family Incorporated cash flow projection represents cash that will be available throughout life to cover living expenses after your taxes, planned savings, and debt repayments, if you have any. Figure 1.2 projects the dollars available, adjusted for inflation, over our 25-year-old's future years of consumption. In the early years, his consumption is funded by his largest asset, labor. As he gets older and his labor is depleted, he has to fund consumption from his financial assets. Figure 1.2 also highlights some of the challenges of managing your business in a way that satisfies your family's needs. It's useful because it suggests a spending pattern a person could adopt over time while incurring no debt and saving 10% of after-tax earnings. But it's theoretical. In reality, no one's cash flow looks just like this. For example, this family spending profile is often inconsistent with the financial needs of a young family, including mine. At 28, I stopped working and returned to school to pursue an MBA. For 2 years, my wife, child, and I spent approximately $50,000 annually more than we earned after tax. We maintained consumption that was much higher than our earnings by depleting our limited savings and borrowing money. Later on, to meet my savings goal, we had to consume dramatically less than we earned for several years to make up for this deficit. Even though my financial assets decreased dramatically, the principles of this book demonstrate that the effect on our Family Incorporated net worth was positive almost from day one. During my 2 years in graduate school, our financial assets plummeted to about negative $100,000. I depleted my financial assets to zero and also borrowed $100,000 in school loans to make this major investment in my labor development. However, at the same time, thanks to the value of the degree and the skills and relationships I developed, the expected value of my labor went up dramatically to more than offset the depletion of financial assets. In other words, between ages 28 and 30, my Family Incorporated net worth increased in aggregate. Financial assets decreased, but the increase in labor assets more than made up for that loss. Families often have greater consumption needs early in their life cycle when they have children and make significant purchases like housing, education, furniture, and automobiles. A family CFO might choose to use debt to finance major investments such as a house purchase or
Sample complete. Ready to continue?